The Fast and the Furious franchise has been popping out movies every couple of years since 2001, and with plans to create a 9th and 10th entry, it doesn't show any signs of stopping. At this rate, it'll rival other franchises like Harry Potter, Star Wars, and even the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With all that content speeding by, it could be easy to miss a few things. Here are 10 things you never knew about The Fast and the Furious.
This should be interesting.
Now this video is going to be so fast and furious that you might not have time to subscribe while on this wild adventure. Best to do it now before we get started. All set? Let's put the pedal to the metal.
Nice car. What's the retail on one of those?
Illegal street racers. What better way to portray illegal street racing than with the help from real illegal street racers? Director Rob Cohen of The Fast and the Furious helped pick out 200 souped-up cars driven by their owners to be in the first film. This was a fantastic idea to capture both the look and feel of how underground racing really is. In the fourth entry of the franchise, Fast and Furious, the movie's director, Justin Lin, held open casting calls not for actors, but cars.
Okay, so which one do you want?
I want them all.
Filmmakers would post meetup places where people could bring their cars to show off and audition for the movie. The filmmakers would then select which cars they wanted to appear in the film, and insert the cars into different scenes as needed. Not only was it great for authenticity, but the studio must have saved tons of money by hiring cars and people who wanted to be in the movie, rather than buying or creating vehicles for the film.
I thought you wanted to go to Tokyo.
We'll get there. Eventually.
Out of order. Some of the names of the Fast and the Furious movies aren't as easy as 1, 2, 3, so keeping track of which one is which can be a bit difficult, especially with the first movie being called The Fast and the Furious and the fourth movie being Fast and Furious. Not only that, but the movies aren't in linear order. For example, Tokyo Drift is actually set in the future, and the movie doesn't take place in the timeline until after the sixth movie. There are even two movies that most people haven't even heard of. Los Bandoleros is a short film and prequel to the franchise set before the first movie, and The Turbocharged Prelude is a short film starring Paul Walker that bridges the gap between the first and second movie. Now there's talk of even more prequels, which is sure to mess with your head. At least all the Star Wars movies, with the exception of Rogue One, are numbered correctly.
I thought that was our last job, Brian.
Trilogy. In addition to Tokyo Drift, director Justin Lin also directed Fast and Furious, Fast 5, and Fast and Furious 6. He envisioned those three movies as an unofficial trilogy that shared a story arc and that would end with Fast and Furious 6. He even originally wanted the sixth installment to simply be called Furious 6 to fit in with the naming convention of the fifth movie. Unfortunately, from a marketing standpoint, the studio didn't think that the general public would understand what Furious 6 was.
Which one of these things is $1? From the house.
And they were afraid people wouldn't realize it was part of the Fast and Furious franchise. In the end, Lin didn't get his way on the title, but he did get the title card. At the end of the opening credits before the movie actually starts, the title card appears and says Furious 6 rather than the full title of the film.
You know what DK stands for? Donkey Kong. Drift King.
The real Drift King. Tokyo Drift wasn't exactly a fan favorite, to put it lightly, but no one can deny that those drifting scenes are pretty impressive. This is in part thanks to the real Drift King performing some of the stunts for the movie. Keiichi Tsuchiya is a Japanese racing legend. He was the driver in most of the scenes when Sean is learning how to drift. It's a funny scene made even funnier by the fisherman looking on and making fun of Sean learning how to drift. In fact, the fisherman in the blue jacket is the real Drift King himself, Keiichi Tsuchiya. He is a professional race car driver who became famous for his use of drifting in non-drifting events, as well as creating the motorsport of drifting into what it is today.
Nice ride. I won it from our friend Han a few years ago.
Cameo Condition. Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift was almost another movie without the franchise's leading man, Dominic Toretto. Granted, he's only in there for literally 1 minute, but at least he's in there.
I got nothing but time.
Diesel agreed to do the cameo, but in lieu of getting money, he wanted something much more valuable to him. He wanted the rights to Riddick. Diesel wanted to create another Riddick movie, but a third entry was stalled after the Chronicles of Riddick did poorly at the box office. In exchange for his cameo in Tokyo Drift, Universal Studios gave the rights of the character Riddick to Vin Diesel and his production company, One Race. Thanks to the trade, we finally got the third movie in the franchise, Riddick, in 2013, and production on a fourth film titled Furia is set to begin production sometime in 2017.
Don, cars don't fly!
Racer X. Rather than spawning straight from fiction, The Fast and the Furious actually got its start from non-fiction material. Racer X was the title of a magazine article featured in Vibe magazine. The article was written by Ken Lee, who tells the story of the illegal drag racing scene in Queens, New York. Director Rob Cohen found the article and ended up watching a race himself. He was inspired by both the article and the experience and decided he wanted to make it a film. He pitched the idea to Universal Studios, who later bought the rights from Ken Lee, and they began work on a movie. The working title Redline was given to the film, and for a long time seemed to be the official title of the film. It wasn't until close to the premiere that the title was changed to The Fast and the Furious, when the studio acquired the rights for the name, and the rest is history.
You're Han Solo!
I used to be.
Han Solo. In Fast 5, we finally learn Han's last name when we get a quick glance of it on a computer screen. Right next to Dominic Toretto's picture, we see Han's picture with his full name spelled out across the top. As it turns out, his last name is Solo.
Han Solo!
This, of course, is a reference to a wonderful man we all hold dear to our hearts. The late, great Han Solo. At least the Han Solo in Star Wars made it to Episode 7 before getting killed. Poor Han Solo only made it to Fast and Furious 6 before kicking the bucket.
Daddy's gotta go to work.
The Rock Easter egg. Poor Hobbs is in the hospital in Furious 7 after sustaining injuries in an explosion. Later in the film, though, during what is quite possibly the cheesiest yet most awesome moment in the movie, Hobbs busts through the cast on his arm like it was made of toilet paper. If you weren't too distracted by all the manliness on the screen, you might have been able to catch an Easter egg in the background. On the TV behind Hobbs is a college football game, during which a young Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson sacks the quarterback. Yes, Johnson playing Hobbs is watching Johnson playing football.
You know, it's got its perks.
The Easter egg is made even more awesome when you consider what happened to Dwayne that same year. He was injured during that same season, derailing his football career and forcing him onto a new path. A path that would see him knocking people out in the wrestling ring.
Woman, I am the cavalry.
And then eventually wielding a Gatling gun and shooting down helicopters.
What did you say?
Well, I said yes. You know, the money's good, and anyway, if I don't do it, somebody else will.
Helen Mirren. Another newcomer to the cast of the Fast and Furious movies other than Charlize Theron is legendary Helen Mirren. She played an evil sorceress in the movie Excalibur. She portrayed Queen Elizabeth II in her award-winning performance for The Queen.
What are you doing? No! Get me Cecil! Get me Cecil! I'm the Queen of England!
And now, she's taken a shot at being Deckard Shaw's mother in Fate of the Furious. You'd think that someone like that would come with a hefty price tag, but it was actually Mirren who reached out and asked for the role. In fact, she met Vin Diesel at a party and told him she wanted to be in Fast and Furious with him. According to Diesel, the script was already finished and had been greenlit, but a week later she was written into the script. He'd be crazy to pass up an opportunity of adding one more star to an already incredible cast.
Letty's dead, though.
I need to know for sure.
Surprise! After Letty dies in Fast and Furious, audiences thought that it was the end of the character, and so did the person who played the character, Michelle Rodriguez. After all, they did show a scene of her getting shot point blank. It wasn't until the extra scene at the end of Fast 5 that audiences found out that Letty was still alive. The same goes for Michelle Rodriguez.
But she survived.
She had no idea her character was still alive until she watched the premiere of Fast 5. It wasn't until after she watched the film that the studio called and asked her to reprise her role. It's a good thing she said yes, otherwise we might be watching a CGI cyborg version of Letty shooting people with her laser eyes and flying around with rocket boots.
You say what?
That had just turned into an entirely different movie.
This just went from Mission Impossible to Mission and freaking Sanity.
With 8 feature films and counting, there are bound to be things that even the most diehard fans miss. But which ones did we miss? Are there any Fast and Furious fanatics with fun facts? Tell us what we missed in the comments below. Show us some love by liking this video, and subscribe to CBR to catch all of your entertainment needs.